Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Signals Room. Have you ever left a doctor's appointment with the words, "Everything looks normal," echoing in your mind? Maybe your blood work looked good. Maybe your doctor reassured you that nothing concerning showed up. And yet, as you drive home, you couldn't shake the feeling, then why don't I feel normal? If you've ever had that experience, today's episode is for you. Before we get started, though, let me make something very clear. This episode is not about dismissing lab work, ignoring your doctor, or suggesting that blood tests aren't important. They absolutely are. Lab work can identify serious conditions, monitor disease, and provide information we simply can't get any other way. But here's what I've learned after more than 2 decades helping people navigate wellness. Lab work is one piece of the puzzle. Sometimes it's a very important piece, but it isn't always the whole picture. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I started having pain in my right hip. At first, it was just an annoyance, and then it became persistent. There were even days where I could barely walk. Eventually, it wasn't just my right hip anymore, it showed up on both sides. Like most people, I started looking for answers. I tried a few things. The explanations I heard were familiar. It's probably arthritis. It sounds like bursitis. It's common as we get older. Now, those are reasonable possibilities, but something about those explanations never completely satisfied me. Not because I thought they were wrong, but because I felt there had to be more to the story. So I got curious. I started reading about what happens in a woman's body after menopause. One thing kept showing up over and over. Estrogen doesn't just affect reproduction, it also plays an important role in maintaining healthy connective tissue, including your tendons and ligaments. As estrogen naturally declines, many women begin experiencing stiffness, ache, pain, especially around the hips and shoulders. Suddenly, what I was experiencing made a lot more sense. Not because I'd found the answer, but because I'd found another piece of the puzzle. So I changed my approach. I started consistently using hormone supportive essential oils. I incorporated red light therapy using the right wavelengths that are intended to reach into the deeper tissues. I made high quality collagen, a daily habit because connective tissue needs the raw materials, namely collagen, to repair and maintain itself. Did my hip pain disappear overnight? Absolutely not. And I wouldn't expect it to. Our bodies don't usually change overnight, but something did happen. Little by little, I noticed I could move more comfortably. Walking became easier. Getting up after sitting was less painful and more fluid. I even started sleeping better instead of flopping from side to side all night long. Today, I'd estimate my hip pain is probably about 80% better than it used to be. Not because I found a miracle, but because I stopped asking, how do I get rid of this pain? And I started asking, what is my body trying to tell me? That simple question changed everything. Just this week, I was at a furniture store looking at recliners. The woman helping me said that she couldn't sit comfortably in certain chairs because of her own hip pain. We started talking. I shared a little bit of my story, including what I'd learned about hormonal changes after menopause. She nodded almost immediately. She had experienced many of the same things. Before I left, I gave her my website and simply invited her to take a look around if she wanted to learn more. That conversation reminded me how many women quietly accept pain as just getting older. Sometimes aging could be part of the story, but sometimes it's only a chapter. Maybe your story isn't hip pain. Maybe you're exhausted after sleeping all night. Maybe you wake up every morning feeling like you never really rested. Or maybe your energy crashes every afternoon. Or maybe you walk into a room and forgot why you weren't there. Or maybe your words disappear in the middle of a sentence, or your joints feel stiff when you first get out of bed, or your shoulders ache for no obvious reason. Maybe you've noticed your hair thinning or your skin becoming drier than it used to be. Or maybe you've gained weight with it, even though your eating habits haven't changed and you still get exercise. Maybe you wake up at 3 a.m. and your mind decides it's time to start the day. Maybe the hardest symptom to describe is simply this: I just don't feel like myself anymore. Those experiences are all very real and they're incredibly common. One of the biggest misunderstandings in wellness is believing that if something doesn't show up on a routine lab work, then it must not matter. I don't believe that's true. Our bodies are incredibly adaptable. They compensate, they adjust, and sometimes they continue functioning surprisingly well while quietly asking for support in ways that don't always appear on a standard blood test. That doesn't mean something serious is hiding. It simply means your body's trying to communicate through symptoms before measurable changes appear, or through factors that routine testing doesn't fully capture. When I think about symptoms, I try not to see them as enemies. I see them as information. Fatigue, brain fog, hip pain, poor sleep, digestive discomfort, and a whole host of other things that are not diagnoses. But every one of those symptoms is a signal. It's not a conclusion, it's a signal. And a signal invites us to become more curious. Could hormones be involved? Chronic stress, inflammation, nutrition? Could sleep be affecting everything? The goal isn't to jump to conclusions. The goal is to ask better questions. I think we've also created unrealistic expectations. We hope one appointment, one lab report, or one supplement will explain and fix everything. Health rarely works that way. It's much more like assembling a puzzle. Lab work is one piece. Your symptoms are another. Your sleep, stress, nutrition, movement, hormones, life experiences, and yes, your own observations are all part of the picture. Nobody lives in your body but you. And you notice what changed. You know when something feels different. Those observations matter. If you've been told your lab work is normal, but something inside you keeps whispering, I still don't feel like myself, please don't ignore that whisper. It doesn't mean something is terribly wrong. It certainly doesn't mean you should panic. It simply means your experience deserves attention. Continue working with your healthcare provider. Keep asking thoughtful questions. Pay attention to patterns. Become curious about what your body is saying instead of frustrated with it. Because wellness isn't simply about avoiding disease. It's about understanding the messages your body's been trying to send you all along. And I'll leave you with this. Your body is rarely working against you. Much more often, it's working for you. It's constantly adapting, protecting, and communicating. The question isn't whether your body is speaking. The question is, are we listening? Thank you so much for joining me today in the Signals Room. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment, share it with someone who may need to hear it, or send me a message. And if you've been told everything looks normal, but you still don't feel like yourself, that's exactly the kind of conversation we can have during a wellness consultation. Sometimes another perspective can help you connect the dots in ways you hadn't considered. Until next time, keep paying attention to the signals beneath the surface.